Good morning. It is Sunday, March 15th. This is the second in my diet update series, Becoming My Own Nutritionist. I'm going to talk about my frame of mind and how I'm approaching this endeavor and how I've learning to trust what my body tells me and how I approach expertise in this information age where experts seem on the surface to disagree with each other more than agree with each other. I see in the sea of tribalism, the vegan nation, the carnivore nation, the omnivore union, and these divisions, and keto diet, Atkins diet, paleo, the Mediterranean diet, all these strong tribal groups where people will embrace the culture around a diet or around a way of eating, and let that blind them potentially to how they feel and to what the evidence, the science, and the experiences of others are telling them. So I don't want to ignore these tribes and these groups. I want to join and be a part and interact, but not get lost in them. So right now I've joined the Lean Mass Hyperresponder Facebook group, Carnivore Facebook group, and a low oxalate diet Facebook group, and some others, to respectfully learn and be a part of their community, but try not to let it become an echo chamber that will or try to not fall prey to the tendencies for these tribal situations to be echo chambers. To think independently and critically. It's a balance, of course, in all things. But it's also how I try to approach conversation. I mean, I love competition, I love arguing, I love winning. But if I'm seeking truth when I'm debating rather than winning, it allows me to end up in a better place. So that's what I try to do. That's the frame of mind that I try to have. Try to be respectful and open to joining a tribal community, while not losing my identity in critical thinking, and being aware of biases within places that have tendencies towards echo chambers, where we're just hearing the same things, we're just reflecting each other's thoughts, and if something's discordant, we just push it out, or there's a tendency to push it out without thinking critically about it. Conversation is peace. So I also want to be able to pull back and make sure that everything fits together with my experiences in my own personal life and with other groups. So if I'm a part of multiple tribes with multiple groups, if I'm learning something from, let's say, a broad keto-based group that includes plant-based keto, and maybe I can apply that knowledge in the carnivore group, where I can ask questions, or the low oxalate group. I can hear that chocolate, for example, is high in oxalates, which is a prevalent anti-nutrient. So will that, for somebody who's embracing a keto diet, chocolate sounds great. And then somebody who's embracing a carnivore diet, it's like, a little bit of chocolate's not so bad. And then somebody in the low oxalate group will have concerns about the levels of oxalate. And I can just kind of bounce around and ask questions and just have a collective feel and make sure it all makes sense. If something is out of place, it's just an approach to being my own nutritionist. It's got to make sense. If something doesn't make sense, don't ignore it. All the puzzle pieces have to fit together. If something doesn't, I need to learn more. And so it's maybe a problem that I can come back to, but ultimately, in the information age, ignorance is a choice. So as I've become insulin sensitive, as I've pushed away my sweet tooth, my sugar addiction, after about a month of being on a low carb, I think most people lose their sugar cravings. I've really embraced trusting my body, trusting my appetite and how my body feels. This ranges from when I'm injured in jiu-jitsu and not taking it, rather than taking a painkiller, depending on the injury, but at least in my own case, I avoid painkillers if I'm going to stay active. If I'm going to be inactive, sure, painkillers can make sense. But if I'm going to remain active, the pain is information. It's telling me what I should and shouldn't do. Similarly with diet, discomfort, bloating, hunger pains, all these things are tools telling you what your body thinks you should be doing. So as I've started to use fasting as in my toolbox of nutrition, I can think about my hunger initially when I haven't eaten for 12 hours and really dive into it. I don't want to force myself to think about it one way or another. Like if I have a goal of 20 hours of not eating, and I get, does my hunger pains go away? What happens to my energy level? Just paying attention to the overall experience. And then afterwards, is my joint pain less? Do I sleep better? How do I feel over the course of days, weeks, months? It's think about it all holistically. But it's great to have a simplified diet, and kind of teach myself or teach myself how to trust what my body is telling me. I think it's a basic lesson that many of us never learned or lost early on. Just being able to trust what our body is telling us. Like taste. If I have a sweet tooth, that means, as I understand it, that I am insulin tolerant, that I'm eating way too much sugar and carbohydrates. If I cut that back to the point where I don't have cravings anymore, then I can actually start to trust my taste buds. If if I want something salty, maybe it makes sense to have some salt. Maybe I'm lacking in electrolytes. If I look at liver and I'm like, man, I really want liver right now. Maybe I'm lacking something that's driving me towards that. But maybe the biggest one is having shifted from sugar to fat as my primary energy source. Starting, that's the first thing that I eat consistently, some meat and fat, some animal fat, not just like a bit of avocado, but starting the day with a bit of meat and fat. Like that is so satiating, and satiation in general, not just the taste of something, but not just how it feels in your mouth, but how it feels in your stomach, how your body feels after you eat. And having that be important as a measure of your health. Of course, there's stuff going on in your body that you just can't know based on feeling. Maybe some kind of cancer deep within you, some kind of heart disease deep within you. But I think people having the standard American diet has distanced people on this diet from being able to trust what their body is telling them to a large degree. And when we go to an expert, they, I think, have learned to not trust what people are telling them because the bodies of their patients are generally not, there's just too much going wrong, too much inflammation in general, and too many symptoms. So simplifying or reducing the strain of of bandwidth is simplifying the symptoms, can allow an easier diagnosis for something that's wrong. And the internet is a great tool to be a pseudo expert. Of course, it's danger. It's a rolling a dice. It's a gamble. But what really makes an expert? It's one thing if it's a board certified doctor in a particular field, but with nutrition, dietitian in the United States, as far as I understand, there isn't a board certification, medical certification. It's a patchwork of people that are quite a bit of disagreement. And in my own dive to get some dive into my healthcare, to get some feedback from my general practitioner, from a nutritionist, and from a what's it called, a endocrinologist. I'm not saying it right, but a body systems doctor, like a heart doctor. It's more than just a heart doctor, but they haven't been. All these experts are behind the times. They don't have the studies to make them feel safe, it seems, talking about low-carb diet or carnivore diet. I want to hear what they think, what they have to say, but they are ignorant, basically. So I've heard that the plural of anecdote isn't data. I mean, it may not be data, but in the absence of data, anecdotes will reign. And like as an aside, the original quote may have been, "The plural of anecdote is data," and then it morphed into the opposite over time. And these groups, these tribal groups for keto diet, lean mass hyperresponder diet, low oxalate diet, carnivore diet, there's a lot of anecdotal information there that backs up my own experiences. So get a second opinion from an expert, from experts, plural, and then formulate your own. Do your own research. Develop your body into something that gives you information you can trust. Put all the pieces together into something that makes sense. And roll the dice. It's kind of exciting. I know I've got some people worried about my lipid panel, my high LDL cholesterol score, for example. But based on the information that I have, how I feel, and the anecdotal experience of others, as well as experts that I've viewed online, not seen in person or spoken to directly, that is fine to have. If, for example, you have a high HDL and a low triglyceride, or various other factors, and I will in upcoming videos dive deeper into the science, such as it is, and such as much as I understand it. But that's how I'm approaching being my own nutritionist. Have a great day, and maybe I'll put the next video up tomorrow.